quiet gays? Where are the quiet gays supposed to go?
Hello, good morning.
Hello, hello. Thank you guys for making time for me. I so appreciate it. I'm super excited to chat with you.
Oh, we're
Oh,
so
so
excited
excited.
you're here.
We both say the same thing. We've been doing this for a while.
I'm
Um,
Haley.
yes, and I'm Lauren. Nice to meet you.
You as well. I'm Michaela, of course.
Of course.
Nice
No,
to
we're
meet you,
super excited to have you
Michaela.
on.
Okay.
Do we need to give any like rundown, Haley? We really just sit here and chat, so it's not anything super scripted or anything like that. So we're just really excited to hear about your projects.
Okay, for sure. Yeah, so obviously, my name is Michaela Wiggins. I've been in the film industry for about 12 years now. I started out as an actor. I very quickly realized that I did not like being in front of the camera. I was like, this is not for me. So, I transitioned to behind the camera. I started writing. I've always been a writer, but I got into screenwriting, and from there, just moved my way up. Like the typical story. The upcoming project that I have is called The Ballad of Connie Rose, and it's a sapphic romance. At its heart, it's a sapphic lesbian romance between two women in their early 50s. Connie Rose is, yeah, so it's one of those age ranges that we don't see. They're
Yeah.
fully told a lot. So I felt like it was really important to get the story out there. But Connie is a washed up 90s rock star. She was like Nirvana level fame, had everything, and then the rug just got ripped out from under her. Early on, she had a girlfriend named Jess, and her and Jess had planned this beautiful life together. Times were different back in the 90s and the early 2000s, so things just didn't work out. And Connie saw that fame and heard the people calling and the money and decided to, she left Jess behind. She went and she did what her heart wanted at the time, or so she thought. So, we fast forward to present day where Connie is broke. She's in danger of losing everything. Her house is in foreclosure. She's really struggling. And her manager, Kip, comes to her and he's like, hey, I think I have something that can kind of get us out of this hole that we're in. And she's like, okay, what is it? He goes, you're going on tour. And she's like, okay. And he's like, with a Gen Z pop star. And she's like, I'm not doing that. That absolutely not. She's like, I'm too old for that. She's bitter. She's not, she can be kind of cruel. Life wasn't great to her. So obviously she's got to do it. She moves forward. And she takes this offer. She meets up with Alex. Alex Jennings is the little Gen Z pop star. She's 21 years old and she's fresh faced and she's excited about everything and life is so great. And Connie's just the opposite. They have that generational clash immediately. But that's the basis of the story. Currently, we're getting ready to shoot a proof of concept short film for it. So I'll kind of talk a little bit about that because that's where everything kind of starts. So the proof of concept, it takes place at the first rehearsal. So Connie walks in, she's watching Alex rehearse and all her backup dancers, Taylor Swift-esque, like they've got everything. It's glittery and loud, and Connie's like, this is not me. This sucks. I don't want to be here. And her buddy, who's her bass player, he comes in, Rob, and he's like, we're gonna do this. We're gonna be fine. It's gonna be cool. So they go into rehearse and they get into their room, and she's feeling it. She's singing, she's vibing, everything's good. When the song ends, she's like still on that high, and she's like, oh my God, it felt so good, right, Rob? Like we're back in 98. She turns around and on drums is her ex-girlfriend, Jess. So they're stuck in this tour. Connie's locked in. Like I don't want to give too much away because
Yeah.
it gets a little crazy for a few minutes there in the short. She kind of just has this moment of spiral, like, oh, I can't, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing it. And, she doesn't have a choice. So the short is taken directly from the feature. It's the inciting incident. And from there, we would launch into the feature. Her and Jess have their moment and see where it goes. The feature there's a lot to it. There's some pretty complicated topics that we touch on, being a lesbian romance at its heart, essentially. There's the nuances of being older and kind of looking back on the decisions that we made and dealing with those, and just kind of a reckoning of like, okay, I chose this. It's it's on me. But also coming from someone who doesn't always have the ability and hasn't developed the skill yet to kind of own up to what they've done and what they've decided to do. So it's kind of like there's a lot of push and pull. It's a lot of fun. Connie's a really fun character. I imagine when people see her on screen, they're gonna fall in love real quick. I know I did when I was writing her. So I'm excited for it. I wrote it. I'll be directing it. I've got a fantastic producer on board as we move forward with the short. We have some crazy big casting goals, and we are busting our butts every day. And we're getting in those meetings, and we're trying to get the attachments that we need as we move forward. But things are going pretty well, so super super excited about it.
No, that sounds so exciting. I would go see that in a heartbeat. Absolutely. Haley is probably going to be able to talk a lot more about like the production, the film end of this. My questions are probably like all going to be hella personal. So sorry.
I'm ready.
Okay, amazing. I'll just start. So are you queer? Is that okay to ask? Like you're
Absolutely.
writing queer characters and
Yes.
what's your relationship with the queer community and how did you get into writing specifically about sapphic, lesbian, different types of media?
Sure, yeah, great question. Yes, I am a lesbian. I'm 32 years old. I've been out and proud since I was 14. I grew up in Rhode Island, so things were challenging at that point in time for gay kids, but I had a really great support system, fortunately. So great family, good girlfriend back then, and you know, grew up. I moved down to Florida where I met my now wife. We've been together for 8 years. We have an 18-month-old daughter who is a handful.
Yep.
Yeah,
18 months that's my favorite age though, because it is so fun.
it is. I'm having a blast. Like we just every day it's something new, and she's got such a personality. We can see like little bits of each one of us.
Uh-huh.
It's so fun. It is awesome.
And they're
But yeah,
like talking and their little personalities coming out and
yes,
they're
yeah,
so like, I love you, mama, or like kisses. Like I love it.
yep,
That's so sweet.
yeah. So yes, I am a lesbian. I've been heavily involved in the gay community my whole life. I felt like I love reading. I've always been a lesfic fan. I started reading Radcliffe's books back when I was in high school and like hiding them under my bed so my parents didn't see them. And that's where my love for these stories came from. And just reading about people like me and like my friends and stuff on screen, excuse me, in books. And then when I was looking for, our representation on screen, it just wasn't there. And when it was, it either sucked, was poor quality, or it just the stories they weren't told by us for us, and it wasn't what I wanted. So when I got into filmmaking, I was like, these are the stories that I know, and I want them to be told. And I can't imagine that, there are straight people and people that are not part of the community that tell the stories well. But I think that we can tell them better, indisputably.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Yeah, when you approached us about this episode, you talked a lot about telling queer stories authentically. And I want to know, what is your approach to that? And specifically as a director, how do you coax out, specific beats and emotion and story out of your characters that you feel really tells these stories that you want people to see?
Absolutely. So that's a great question. I like to really dig in. I'm typically a writer director. I don't direct a ton of stories that are not crafted by myself. That's just a circumstantial thing right now. But when I'm writing, I'm creating these backstories, and I know the character better than anybody else, and I make sure that I really dig in to find the meat and the potatoes, what makes this character go, why she's in these situations, why she's attracted to these people, whether it's romantically or just, platonically. And then when I do start to, once I get the drafts done and then we start to transition into pre-production and stuff like that, I like to pull from other media sources. So maybe characters I've read in books or things that I've read in a book or another film that I've watched. And then I'll pull all that together and I'll see where this particular character that I've crafted fits. And then from there, it's digging in, getting that right is huge too. There's folks that are comfortable playing gay. There's some that are not. There are some that are part of the gay community and they want to dive in and they want to play these roles. I won't say casting one way or the other is easier for a sapphic story specifically. It's just making sure that they have chemistry at whatever level of the spectrum the relationship is at. And then really I'm a really hands-on director. So like I'm always available to my actors and my crew. And I'm like, shoot me a text. You have a question, text me, call me. If you're thinking this about this character or the way it's written, something doesn't make sense. I've trusted you to bring you on at this point. So I trust you to bring ideas and your thoughts too. So when it comes to like crafting these stories authentically, it's definitely being a collaborative filmmaker or storyteller and hearing other people's perspectives, their point of view, their experiences too. Of course, I pull from my own and challenges that I've faced and stuff like that. And of course, other things that I've seen. Like I have some older lesbian family members that, sitting down and talking to them, like, what was it like in the 80s? What did you guys deal with? How different is it? What do you see today that's different? Pulling from real life as well as just, fictional media. That's how I make sure I'm telling these stories authentically and getting feedback too. I'll let a dozen people read a screenplay and tell me what they think. And if they're like, oh, this part's a little questionable, we're going to fix it. I'm really, really big on collaborating, and getting other people's perspectives.
Oh, that's
I
great.
love that.
As you're
That's
talking, I like come up with like 3 different questions, but go ahead, Haley. I can see your wheels turning on that.
I know I have a couple different too. The aspect of passing down stories like face to face with your older lesbian family members is really intriguing to me, because I feel like that's a big piece that's missing in our community, that so many other families, my dog is wanting to be involved right now, that so many other families have, and communities, and that's not a thing that, I mean, a lot of older lesbians are still living in the closet. I personally had a neighbor that my whole life I was very, very close to. She lived directly across the street from me. I was at her house almost every single day. She was a coach of mine. She was a mentor of mine. And I just thought that she lived with her friend who was also a woman. And my parents knew, obviously, everybody knew that she was a lesbian, but not me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know the word lesbian until I was 15. And so that's a huge element that's missing out of the queer community. And so anyway, that just feels so special to me. I'm so glad that you have that. The other thing that I'm really grabbing onto here is that you have this very unique part of your directing, that you're so accessible to all of your cast and crew. And I'm wondering, how is that different from other sets you've been on? And like, what other elements of your sets do you run differently than the more, like traditional set? Or what do you aspire to have in your set that makes it yours?
Okay, sure. Well, let's see. That's such a good question. Because I've been on a lot of sets that are not mine, and we get through it, we run it. A lot of them run smooth, everything's great. And then I've been on some, of course, that aren't great. I think that I can safely say, hopefully, if anybody hears this and disagrees, let me know. But I think all of my sets have been an environment that people enjoy being in. I come from a background as a first responder. Those are my first jobs. That's what I did. I've always been in really high stress situations, with a lot of emotions involved. So I think that what I bring uniquely, is that I'm able to triage situations and tasks and priorities. A lot of people handle stress well, or they manage stress well. A lot of people don't. And, as a director, when you're on set, it's like there's the central thing that, like, my job is to tell the story and pay attention and make sure that my actors are doing what's needed. And then, I trust my team, my DP to come in, my gaffers to come in and do their thing with the lights and the camera and stuff. But I think just being able to not just do that, but also, mentally kind of catalog what's an important priority that I need to address right now on set outside of just the storytelling aspect. I think that makes my sets run a little more smoothly from what I've experienced on other people's sets, just because instead of saying like, oh, once I get on set, don't ask me any questions unless you're in the scene, or, things like that. It's like anybody can come to me with a question, and, if time permitting, I'm going to be able to address it very quickly. And if I can't address it, I already know, because I've thought through a lot of these issues that might come up. I already know who I can send you to that's going to answer your question. They're not going to blow you off and say, oh, go talk to this person, or wait till Michaela's done with this. Like, I like to have answers to things ahead of time as much as I can. As much, not always possible, but when it's not possible, I know who to send someone to, or I know who to reach out to get answers, and stuff like that. And just being accessible, I think is huge. I think that in my personal life too. It's like I always make time for people. Time is the number one thing to me. Just making time for my family, my friends, and also those that I'm working with, because these stories that I strive to tell are really, really important to me. And I believe they're important to a lot of people, and they need to be told well. And if I'm the head of the ship, I'm the captain, right? I can't do a good job if I'm not there for everybody and dealing with what they're dealing with. Because like if the first AD is super stressed because there's so much going on, and I'm just smooth sailing and I'm like, oh, good luck, that makes me a really bad captain, in my opinion. Not everybody agrees. I'm very fortunate that I have the experience that I do in life outside of film, because it's just allowed me to deal with things in a different way than what I've experienced some folks dealing with. If that answers your question. If not, I can track back a
It
little bit.
does. Big respect to you. I like that answer.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Michaela, what is your sign?
Pisces.
Pisces. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, like listening to the way you were talking, I was like, okay, this sounds like a water sign. Being accessible, like making time for people. I was like, okay, I need to ask because I forgot to ask in the beginning.
Oh, that's funny. Okay.
Great. I have a Pisces moon. Everyone on this podcast knows that because I think I say it like every day. No, I love Pisces. They're great. Two really quick questions. What kind of first responder were you?
Sure. I was an EMT. I worked for county EMS, so I worked alongside the fire department. I was also a sheriff's deputy, very briefly. I always wanted to be a cop ever since I was a kid. I come from a family of a lot of first responders. I wanted to have the dog and be, doing all the fun stuff. But as I got older and I'm married now, I've got a kid. Number one, it's extremely stressful. Number two, the hours are awful. And my time is so important to me. I love my wife. She's incredible. I love my whole family, but I work night shifts, and being gone at night, and she's a doctor. So like I'm gone at night, she's gone during the day. We didn't get to see each other. So I was like, this is unfortunately not going to work for me.
Yeah.
Good luck, everybody. But it wasn't for me in the end. But EMS and EMT, that's where I got started. I absolutely loved it. It felt like an important job at the time, and I still hold a lot of that in my heart with the people that I dealt with and encountered on their worst days. Essentially, that helped me, I think, with empathy and learning to tell stories too.
Oh, for sure. No, I totally understand what you're saying. My girlfriend is a cop, and she worked night shift for a couple months, and I was like, no, I don't like this. And she's currently we're going on a trip, so she's working all this overtime right now, and I like barely see her. So no, I totally understand. Is that an Orlando Pride shirt?
Hell yes, it is.
Woo, yeah.
That's right. Yep. I live in Orlando. We are huge Pride fans.
I love that.
Those are our babies.
I'm going to try really hard to not ask you your opinion on the Ashlyn Harris, Ali Krieger situation that went down.
I've been waiting for her to bring this up.
So just real quick, my sister used to live downtown, and her neighbors on the other side of her street were Ashlyn and Ali. So yeah, that was some fun times. She met him like at a breakfast place a couple times, like it was the whole thing. But
okay, because
I have some opinions.
Oh my God. Okay. At the end, you know what? No, I'm just going to ask you what they are because no, literally, I remember being like a 15, 16-year-old girl being like, what's happening here? Like, it's like if you know, and being like, no, they're so together. They change teams together. Like it doesn't add up if they're just friends, right? So I was like a Crashland stan from the beginning. And when this all went down, I was just like, you're dead to me, Ashlyn Harris. So especially when like everything came out about cans and like the whole Sue Bird being there, like I can't even imagine what the texting conversations were like.
Right, to be a fly on the wall in any of those rooms.
And it's like the intersection of like WNBA, NWSL, like all the lesbian drama together. You want to briefly give me your thoughts being so closely connected to the team and whatnot?
So I played semi-pro soccer in Boston. I graduated high school in 2011, 2012. I went up to Boston. All I will say is that I am team Ali from the get-go. I love Ali. We tore our ACLs right around the same time, like through that knee-hab. Yeah. So like I'm team Ali. I would talk about Ashlyn as a soccer player, but as an Orlando Pride stan, I am not going to do that. out of respect for my team.
I mean, we have the same number of World Cup minutes, her and I. So just saying.
Yes, exactly. That's enough said, right? That says everything.
Yeah.
Sophia Bush, if you hear this, I'm very sorry. It is what it is.
I have friends who are like NWSL stans, but they were also like Sophia Bush stans. And talking to them about it, they were like, we don't know what to do. Because they always felt like Sophia was queer.
Mm-hmm.
So for her to like come out was like such an amazing thing. But for her to come out as like a literal homewrecker was and she's not. I'm not gonna blame the other woman because she didn't make vows to Ali Krieger. I'm fully holding Ashlyn Harris accountable, but at the same time, girl, like you're cheating, but you're commenting on their Instagram, like, oh, love you guys.
Gosh, I know. Like just all the tea, the public tea. That's the best part about it. And like, come on, guys.
I know. And for like her to find out at practice.
Yeah.
That's okay. Sorry, Haley. Haley's like, oh. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. It's always
got
fun
that connection, so no, gotcha.
Yeah, no, it's always fun for me to talk soccer. That's like how our relationship even started, was like we love soccer. So that's super fun. Then I was like peeping the top circle of like Orlando, and I was like,
oh yeah,
sure.
My wife told me to wear this. She was like, "Oh, keep that on." I was like, "All right, fine."
Yeah, no, absolutely.
she knew Lauren would bite.
Yeah, she's like, that's easy bait for me to take. Okay, back to, I have a question back related to film. What is your opinion on, I read in your email, and if this isn't like something you want the public, we can obviously cut it. But you said you have really high casting hopes, like Catherine Hahn.
Oh yeah,
in there as Connie. From what I know about Catherine Hahn, she is straight. She's married to a man. Again, that doesn't make you straight necessarily. Especially in Hollywood, people's identities can be a little hidden. But what do you think about casting straight actors as queer characters? Because I know that there's been a lot of discourse about that, and having like giving the representation to queer actors. I mean, I do have to caveat and say, like, I think there are a ton of straight actors who play queer characters incredibly well. My favorite one is Saran Jones. I think, she's incredibly straight, like by her own admission, but she plays a lesbian detective in Vigil. She plays obviously Ann Lister in Gentleman Jack, and her chemistry, like, it's so believable that I couldn't believe she was straight when I found out. Right. So what's your take on that?
Sure. So I tried to look at it from two perspectives. One is the lesbian in me, and I'm like, I want people like me to be portraying people like me on screen, right? Like that's the goal. However, I also, when I write a lot of characters in a certain way, right? Based on who the character is and, all this backstory stuff. When I started writing Connie Rose, I wrote her with Catherine Hahn in mind because of the duality that Catherine brings. Now, Catherine's not attached to the project, just full disclosure. We're still working towards that. I'm very comfortable talking about it because I really believe in this project, and what we're doing, and the meetings that we've had, not with her representation, but just, casting directors and stuff like that. I feel really strongly about it, really confident about the talent level, that we can bring on to something like this. I also think that it's really important for stories like this to have recognizable faces, whether they're queer or not, because I think it helps get the stories in front of more people, a bigger audience. While I primarily make these stories for, a sapphic LGBTQ plus community, or that audience, I want to tell the story, and I want the characters to be portrayed in the best way possible. So if there was a queer actress that I saw for Connie, that's who I would have honed in on as I wrote it. And there's other projects or other films that I've directed or I've written where, they are queer, and that's who we've targeted with our casting. But for this specific story, I went into it knowing who had to play, who could do this character justice. And that was my sole goal with casting. It still is, as we move forward. Catherine will not be in the short. I like to tell myself it's just because she's too busy this summer, but it's a short film. It is what it is. But yeah, so I think that straight people can play gay characters very, very well. And I think it's absolutely fair for them to do so because they are actors. I also think that we do need more queer actors to be playing queer characters. And I think that comes from people being comfortable coming out and talking about their sexualities. I'm sure that there's them A-list actors that just haven't been comfortable talking about it and they've maybe played gay, who knows? But I think accessibility for these actors, and then the roles too. So, like I said, I wrote Connie with a specific actor in mind based on their talents. But I think as writers, if we're writing characters that are queer with specific queer actors in mind, I think it makes it easier to find the right actor. There's not a huge pool of queer actors that are at, a certain level, and that could simply be because they haven't been given these opportunities before. It goes to a straight actor because people know them instead of them. I think it's really nuanced, and I think it's kind of like a double-edged sword where it's like, if we don't cast straight actors that are more popular, then we're not going to get this in front of the people that it needs to get in front of so that we can tell more of these stories so we can get the funding. But it also sucks because it's like, well, these are our stories. And I'm really big on the for us, by us. And I do understand that with casting a straight actor for a lesbian character, that it's like, well, that's not really by us. So I think that's more the for us, the rest of the story is by us. And then, that's not necessarily the for us part. But I hope that answers your question. If not, I'll dive in a little bit more, but I would love to see more queer actors getting these roles. But I do think at the end of the day, it just depends on what you're looking for and what skills you can pull from the actors that you're looking for.
Oh yeah, it definitely sounds like you have to strike a balance in casting.
Yeah, it's tough. It is tough.
I have a question about the different tropes.
Okay.
You were kind of emailing about this before too, about going beyond tropes to tell character first stories. And I want to know two things about this. One, I'm curious, when you say telling character first stories, what exactly does that mean to you? And two, what sort of tropes do you tend to see that you are wanting to kind of stray away from in our space?
Okay. Excuse me. So for me, character-driven stories, it means the characters come first. The plot is there, and it's a simple plot. Like, just for like a mainstream example would be like Taylor Sheridan with his Lioness series, right? I love that series.
Oh.
I love the women carrying guns. Like, oh my God, I love watching them, right? But the way that he tells stories is definitely character first. It's character driven. It's not plot driven. So you have a really simple plot. Like, they've got to go from point A to point B and some stuff has to happen. But the focus of the story is what happens to the characters and why they have to get there and how they're going to get there, and just these little intricate details about them, instead of it being like, I'm trying to think of a plot driven film right now and I absolutely cannot. But it's like if we're watching oh gosh, what example can I use? It's like I've never seen a movie before in my entire life.
Like a heist film.
Yeah, there you go,
Yeah.
right? So like you take a heist film and like that is the plot. There's all these little details that we got to pay attention to because it's like a treasure hunt, right? I think that's fun. I like to watch them, but when I tell stories, I care a lot more about the characters and the individual character and the journey that they are going through. So like with Connie Rose, right? She's got to go on this tour. It's not a musical. I don't like musicals, but she's a musician. Like, a full disclosure, not a musical gal. So there's no like big concert pieces in this. We just get like little tidbits and stuff. So that's the plot is, to me, the tour and her financial situation and what she's going through. But the real driving force is Connie and why she is where she is and what she's feeling, what she's thinking when she's dealing with Jess. Is she like, the trope of like the lesbian exes that are like forced to be together where they got to share a bed, right? They don't share a bed unwillingly in the feature, but it's like telling the story from the character's point of view without focusing on where they're going. I like to tell stories that are like uncomfortably close is what I like to call it. So like we're right there with her and we're in these intimate moments, and we might forget that she's on a tour for a little bit, but that's because we've been with her in these intimate moments and focusing on what she's going through and how she's kind of moving through life and moving through the plot. That's what I mean by character driven, opposed to like plot driven stories. And in the queer space, the film space, we do see a lot of character first stories, which I think is great. It makes sense because a lot of films that focus on queer characters, it is a lot about their sexuality and what they've gone through. So it makes sense for it to not be super plot heavy necessarily. But yeah, so that's what I mean by character driven. As far as tropes go, I I don't hate tropes. Like I think they can be fun if done well and not cartoonish isn't the right word, but if not done in a way that just makes that the sole focus, you know? What are some examples of tropes you guys like or dislike? Let's do dislikes and then I'll walk through them and my thoughts.
I'm not a huge fan of age gap tropes.
Okay. Okay.
They're not my favorite. What other tropes? I mean, I love like friends to lovers or like enemies to lovers. Obviously, those are good ones. Haley, off the top of your head, what do you not? Which tropes do you not like? I feel like we like everything on this podcast.
Honestly, I feel like I don't have super strong opinions about the tropes themselves. It's more of the way that they're done. Like if they're there just to be there, then I'm like, what the heck? You know?
Yeah. Well, so like a couple that I dislike and I either won't tell or if I do tell these stories, it would be completely flipped on its head. The tragic ending. I don't do tragic ending. Okay. Like I am
Yeah.
anti-tragic ending. We've seen enough of that. We don't need that. So full disclosure, spoiler, whatever. The Ballad of Connie Rose, it's complicated, but it doesn't have a sad ending, you know? The in queer stories, like the coming out trope of like that's or later in life or whatever, you know, I think that sometimes can be overdone, kind of like, you know, beating a dead horse in a way, because there are stories out there already that are dealing with coming out and the positives, the negatives, the awful experiences, the great ones. But it's like the in between is what I'm interested in. So after these characters have come out and like they've lived for a little bit out, like what is their life like? What is interesting? What's happened that's been really exciting that we can dive in and retell or deal with, or, you know, look back on their coming out and their relationships and how it affected things and how it got them to where they are. Tropes like that, like the queer baiting trope, which I consider it a trope because I think so many TV shows specifically have done it to us over the years. That's something that I think is unnecessary. I don't like what is the point? You know, I think it's become a trope. I think for some showrunners, it's become kind of fun for them because it gets them the attention that they want for their show and gets them that audience. And any press is good press, right? When it's a big show. So that kind of stuff, but definitely, you know, over sexualization of lesbian characters specifically. I don't know if that would be considered a trope, but it happens enough that it's like, well, wait a second, you know, like why are we doing this? Why are we telling the story this way?
Yeah.
And that has to do with the lens the story is told through, right? So like most lesbian filmmakers aren't going to over sexualize lesbian characters and their relationships because that's not how we look at our relationships, because those are our relationships.
Yep.
You know, that's another one that I'm like, oh, well, you know, the tragic stories, the angry and unstable and abusive, like, I think those are overdone. Like, yeah, of course, there are lesbians that we're human beings, right? Like, there's those of us that are terrible people, great people, everything in between. But I think when you start to look at stories that are kind of focusing on like the angry, bitter, nasty, like, oh, the man-hating lesbian, like take it easy, guys. You know, we're just people. Like there's great, there's good, bad, you know, like everybody else. I think a lot of those tropes get overused quite a bit.
Yeah. I want to talk about the project. You emailed us an update, which is very exciting. A Western.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell us more about this project? Because I've been watching Yellowstone. And so like I feel Montana, Haley.
I'm a little Western lady.
Okay.
Yeah, Haley, if Claudia and I go to Montana, can we stay with your family? Because we want to go see the ranches out there.
Yes, my family does not live on a ranch, but you can see a cow ranch from my house. So
you mean to tell me that not everyone in Montana lives on a ranch?
I'm so sorry to disappoint. From my front porch, you can see cow ranch. From my back porch, you can see horse ranch.
Oh wow, okay. Oh man.
That's awesome. Hilarious. Yeah, so I have my cowboy hat over there. My girlfriend's Mexican. So when we were in Mexico, she got me one. So when you told me you're doing a Western, I was like, ooh, I want to hear more about this. So tell us more.
Sure. So the author that I'm working with, her name is S.M. Norton, and her book is called Crimson Shadow, and it's her debut novel. It came out, I want to say January-ish. It's done really well since then. Full disclosure, I have not read it yet. I've been so busy. I got hired to write a pilot like in like they were like 10 days to write this whole pilot. And I'm like, what do you mean? So I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but Stephanie, she's already adapted the novel into a miniseries. So she's written all the scripts for it. We're currently in creative development, so I'll be directing the majority of the episodes, and we do tentatively have a co-director, not a co-director, but I'll be passing off the torch about halfway through the season, depending on how it goes, or the series rather, 'cause it's a miniseries. But yeah, so it's a lesbian Western romance. There's gunfighting and duels and all kinds of super exciting things. The way that she adapted the episodes, basically it goes through, not necessarily chapter by chapter, but she's broken it down in a way that it tells the whole story from the novel in the miniseries. It's a really fun project. We're super early in it. The Ballad of Connie Rose this summer we'll be shooting the proof of concept in LA. So we're trying to move through. I'm trying to move through stages because I took on a producer role on Stephanie's project as well to kind of get it moving. So that one's a little bit more slow going. We are very, very early in the process. She's got some really cool contacts that she's made with some known queer actors that are really interested. So as we move forward and we can start talking about that stuff a little bit more, that'll be really exciting. I think a lot of people will be absolutely pumped for this. It's a fun, Westerns are awesome, and we don't have enough lesbian Westerns. So
I can't think of any.
yeah, like there's none. So, and it's the mini-series format is really cool too, because we get to move through at a more reasonable pace. It probably could work as a feature, but it's a fun concept to sit and watch, 45-minute episode and then move on to the next one. So that's our goal with it. The filmmaking process is slow going. It's a lot of hurry up and wait, and like a lot of really exciting things happen really fast. And then it's like, okay, we got to wait 6 months to do something else. So yeah, we're in creative development. We'll be seeking funding soon. We've got some really good sales agents that we're dealing with, just trying to get everything in motion early so that we can adapt it. Stephanie has been instrumental in getting things done, which is fantastic. She's brand new to film. This is her debut novel as well, so she's just been great on keeping the ship sailing while I'm a little sidetracked with other things. This one, because we're so early into it, we won't be seeing it coming to fruition for a while. But we'll be talking about it a lot. She's just getting active on social media to kind of start talking about it more and just see where it can go. But yeah, so that's where we're at.
Very exciting.
Yes. And I'm in talks with another very well-known author in the sapphic space to potentially adapt her novel. I can't give a whole.
I was gonna say, can we have a name? Is it Taylor Jenkins Reid?
We can't yet. We haven't signed the contract yet.
Okay.
But we've been talking, and we've got a pretty solid plan and potential. It was a wildly popular novel when it came out. I loved it. I've read it like 4 times.
We covered it.
I don't think that you've covered it. You may have early on, actually.
Have we
I'll email
covered
you guys
it twice?
I'll email you after, and we'll see if you have. But
Okay.
if not, once we get moving on that, I have quite a bit on my plate right now, which is a good thing. But once we really start moving forward with that, I'd be happy to let you guys know, and you can chat with her. I'm sure she'd love to talk to you too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a super fun time. And like, I've always been a reader. Like I said, hiding those little lesfic books under my bed when I was in high school and stuff. Like, I'm a very visual person, and I know a lot of people, they read and they can kind of see it in their head. I literally forget sometimes that I read a book, and I'm like, oh yeah, babe, did you remember that movie? And she's like, that's a book. And I'm like, oh, oops.
Oh my gosh, we do that all the time on here. Like, this would be a movie. Like, I see it in my head when I'm reading it as a movie.
Yep. Yep. And like, the thing that sucks is there are so many incredible books that just are never going to get the opportunity to be on screen because A, there's too many, and B, the funding is not there, And I spoke with Radcliffe. I'm not sure if you guys have read any of her work, but I spoke with her a while ago when I first started the Connie Rose stuff started moving forward. And because I love her. I've read every single book she's written. She's quite old school, but you know what? It works. It works for me. And we talked a little bit, and she said that she's had some interest in adapting some of her novels, and it never goes anywhere. There's no funding, or, nobody has time. And
Yeah.
fortunately, I've got the time, and I'm willing to put in the effort to get these stories told and get them on screen. So we'll see, what happens with Stephanie's novel as we move forward. And hopefully that gets what it needs to move forward. Sometimes projects go all the way up to day one and then they fizzle out. I'm a bit of a pit bull. I can say that. I have one. So, I'm going to get things done. Like once it's in my head and we got something to do, we're going to get it done. But things happen, and I like to be realistic about it. Super excited about it, but we'll see. But once these two adaptations start moving forward, my goal, so I have a very small production company here in Florida called Tempest Motion Pictures, and my ultimate goal with my production company is to start adapting queer novels. I just think there's so many of these stories that need to be on screen. I think it's the right medium for them, and I've got some really, really great investors and contributors that are like, yeah, heck yeah, once things get going, or once things slow down a little and you can focus on them, like, yeah, let's move forward. But there are so many novels that just, they belong on screen.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
Say that every time we read a book is like, oh, I want to see this on the screen. Yeah, that would be an amazing accomplishment for you to get so many books adapted. Even, getting on streaming services, or, I know feature films are obviously where like money's at and things like that. But yeah, even just getting on streaming. I want to go back to your miniseries thing because I absolutely love a miniseries.
Okay.
But we always talk about how we think like Evelyn Hugo. Are you an Evelyn Hugo fan?
I am.
Always think about Evelyn Hugo as a miniseries versus a feature film. What do you think is the benefit of a miniseries, especially maybe for sapphic audiences and for sapphic stories, versus feature films?
I love that question because I have an opinion on it.
Oh, great.
So I think for Evelyn Hugo specifically, I think a miniseries is the way to go. Like if I had all the money in the world and all the connections, like that's the way that story, in my humble opinion, needs to be told. Features are easier. The funding comes in and then boom, boom, boom. We shoot it in 7 days. We shoot it in 30 days. It's done. Move on. Series is a little different. It's a little more challenging. There's a lot more moving pieces. So, it's just a feature. To get a feature made is a lot distributed, because that's the biggest thing with film, right? Is like, if we don't have a distributor at the end of the day, it's not going to go anywhere. It might be on YouTube or whatever. So I think that a mini series for sapphic stories, a lot of them, dare I say the majority of them, would probably be the way to go if the money was there and all the things lined up. Because with films that focus on straight characters or series, right? We'll talk about films first, but we kind of that's what everybody knows, like heteronormativity, right? So we know this is the status quo. Like we know this is how a relationship works and how they live their life. This is how straight folks like live their life, right? With us, I think that there's a lot of mainstream viewers. There's a lot of like assumptions that maybe we don't live like them. Maybe our lifestyle is so different, And I think a series to tell sapphic stories or queer stories as a whole, I think a miniseries specifically, I think it works better to show like our day-to-day life instead of just rushing through it in a feature film. You've got 90 to 120 minutes to tell the story. That's just not enough time to really delve into like the nuances of, who we are as people, who these characters are, and, how they move about in the world. I think for Evelyn Hugo, like, why wouldn't you do it as a miniseries?
7 episodes. Come on.
The audience is there. Like, it's built in. I don't know, but yeah, I think a lot of times a miniseries or a series in general would be the way to go. One interesting thing, and I can't remember who it was that I read this quote from. It'll come to me in the middle of the night, but said that television is for setting. So like Grey's Anatomy, right? It takes place in the hospital, and like that setting is so important, and every plot line that comes through has to do with the hospital. That makes sense. Whereas film is more for, character. So we move through this character's life really quickly. I think with queer stories, a mini series works, because it's not going to be, we know it's not going to be 18 seasons long and it's the same stuff in the same setting. But it gives enough time to really fully tell the story and introduce you. And I think it's important, like, I don't know the word for it. I know there is a term, it's talked about a lot, but not emotional work, but like us having to talk about or tell what it's like to be gay, right? Or whatever.
Emotional labor.
Yes, the emotional labor. I lost my train of thought too, mid-sentence. I was falling.
It happens
Sorry,
when
guys,
you're
I'm
on
a
the
talker.
mic. No, yeah, you're talking about how queer people have to do emotional labor, and maybe how in miniseries.
Yes. Thank you so much. So the emotional labor, I think is another thing that I try to look at from two perspectives in this. Like I'm a biracial woman, right? So like I look at my life and what I do and the way I'm treated through two lenses. Like I'm half Black, I'm half white. So, you know, I've been treated differently by like my Black family members than my white family members as a kid. You know, we were different and stuff like that. So that's why I like to look at things from kind of two different point of views. But for like the emotional labor with like queer storytelling, I think that I'm not going to say we have a responsibility because I don't think it's our responsibility. I personally find it to be my responsibility to tell these stories in a way that does some of the labor for an audience that wouldn't necessarily watch this story or read this book. Because if I don't, there's people that may not be introduced and may not understand, and they just skip through somebody else's film because they're like, oh, this is just another gay story. And they don't understand the characters and they can't kind of dig in because they haven't done that work to understand. And while I don't think it's our job in any circumstance, you know, we don't have that obligation to do this for other people, right? But I like to kind of dig in and kind of serve it up to them on a platter so that they can see it and then work through it themselves.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with you. I don't think it's our job to educate people who don't want to be educated, but I think as an audience, if they're coming already to see a queer story, giving them the what's the word? The trust to like do some of that work for them because they're already coming to see it. There's already an interest there. So why not do a little bit of that work for them to get them in and to get them to understand a little bit more, right?
Yeah. Because inevitably they may see us as different, right? And we know that we're not, and the majority of people know that. But if they're not interested in doing the work, then they're not gonna come see this anyway. So, but if they are interested and they do flip it on and they want to see it, why not kind of share with them more than, you know, we may have been willing to when we really thought about it. We're like, well, it's not my job. No, it's not. But it helps. And I think all it does is help us because for me, it's going to make more people want to come see my movies. They're going to be like, oh, Michaela did that lesbian movie last year, but it was really good. You know, it was really interesting. And like, let's go see the next one, you know, that kind of thing. And then another one comes out by somebody else and they're like, there's no question. The next one, they're going to go see it. It's not even on their radar that it's different because it's not about straight characters. You know what I mean?
Right.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it absolutely makes sense.
This also feels a lot like the purpose of art and why we want people that have different life experiences and perspectives to be able to tell their story. And I'm speaking to people with money and opportunities to give here, that this is why you want to look around and not just give the same people the same opportunity over and over and over again, because you see a Michaela who has a different story to tell than the one that keeps getting told. And that's literally what art is for. And that's why as human beings, it's something that's so precious and special to us and why we're so drawn to it. And also there's this like epidemic of boredom in TV right now because it's so just churned out, and there's this big fear of risk taking because what if we don't make money on it? Oh my gosh. Well, take a risk.
Yep.
Get a Michaela. Come on, guys.
Let me tell your story. I'll do it.
No. And yeah, Michaela, I know you said are you doing crowdfunding? How are you financing? How can we help you with that? Do you have links? What can we do?
So right now we will be crowdfunding some of the short. I I have a business mind, so we're not just focusing on crowdfunding because that's generally not realistic.
Yeah.
We have a pretty significant budget for the short just because of what it has to be to do what it needs to do for the feature. There's a lot of shorts that are like, oh, we can spend $1,000. Unfortunately, I wish that was the case. It's not. I've reached out to tons of businesses, both straight owned and gay owned, and I've gotten a phenomenal response from the majority of them. We've had a lot of folks reaching out when they hear about it and they want to help. So with crowdfunding, we'll be launching our campaign in June, early June. I'd be happy to share a link if you guys, want to check it out. We're obviously focusing on our sapphic community and those outside, businesses, stuff like that. So we do have business or larger contributions coming from, I'll say corporations. They're not corporations, they're small businesses, but not just small, contributors or donors. But I think the heart of it with the crowdfunding is definitely the story. Like I said, it's for us and it's by us. And realistically, we don't get the same budget that a lot of other storytellers do. So right now we're building up the social media, getting my goal is to build a community around this film and the characters so that people really care about them because I care about them a lot. And that's my goal as we move into the crowdfunding phase. We'll be doing it through Seed and Spark. My producer Caitlin, she's incredible. I don't think she ever sleeps. She's getting so much stuff done, and so that's where we will be doing crowdfunding and getting some funding that way, and then the rest will be from larger contributors.
Okay, great. Yeah, send us the link when you have it and we'll absolutely share it because we, as you know, like our podcast, we love to get lesbian stories out there, whether they're books, TV, movies, like we are very passionate about that. So yeah, we'd love to help in any way that we can.
I so appreciate that. I can't wait to tell people this story. I'm so excited for it.
I can tell and it's making me excited to see it.
In my head, because like when you're talking again, I'm seeing it like as a movie. I'm like, this is like if Stevie Nicks was gay. And instead of being with Lindsay, she was with her best friend who is on the piano. Like that's Haley, what happened just then?
You know those books that are okay, how do I explain this? You read them, but then they give you options of you can pick
choose your own adventure.
Yes, the choose your own adventure books. Yes. Okay.
Big fan when I was a kid.
You know what this is reminding me of? The Ballad of Connie Rose is reminding me of if Evelyn Hugo was a choose your own adventure book and it went differently.
Ooh.
Really differently.
It's funny that you say that because in some of the comps that have gone out to investors and financiers and things like that, that is one of a book that we've used as a reference or a comp because it's like, what if Evelyn Hugo made a different choice? Or what if she was a rock star? What if this is set in music, right? This is Evelyn Hugo met A Star Is Born and what was better, like that's what I tell myself. But that's funny that you mentioned that because that is one of the comps that went out. And that a lot of people were like, oh, that's a cool comparison. And like, it made sense, clicked.
Yeah. Oh, it's so cool.
That's good that your translation of this book matches the comparison just by telling it. Like that I got that from you not bringing that up. That's good. That's good. Good job.
Good about that. Oh gosh. Yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned that.
Yeah, we're big Evelyn Hugo fans on this podcast, and I'm really sad that it's going to be a film and not a mini series.
I know.
But do you know the director? Do you know of the director? Not do you know the director? That's hopped on board for this, and like, do you have any thoughts about that?
Who is the director? Because I don't know.
Maggie
I might have thought.
She's done. What has she done? She's gonna co-write the screenplay as well. What was it? Deadline. She's done. The thing that I know about her is that she's connected to Diana Agron, and if we could get Diana Agron to
Oh,
play Celia St. James, I'm
listen,
so
listen.
into that. I cannot even tell you. For Diana Agron to play a queer character would just very much confirm a lot of my suspicions
It
on
would
a
be
lot
very
of
validating.
yes, it would.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, but I don't know what else. Let's see. I'll just search it. Maggie Betts.
Yeah, I'm looking at her credits. I don't think I've seen any of her work.
Okay, yeah.
She's
Yeah,
she's represented by WME, so she knows how to tell a story. So.
okay, good. Yeah. Because because this book was, such a big hit, I just want it to be done well, And I'm sure you feel the same way about your stories, is like I
Mhm.
want it to be told well, especially if it's our stories being told.
Right. Yeah, it's like they don't tell a story just because you can tell a story and you have the money to it. Like, do it the right way, do it with heart, do it with integrity. There's so many projects out there now that are kind of just somebody, nepo babies, like somebody knows somebody that's going to give them money, so they go and do it. And like, there's no heart in it. It's just because they wanted to get a story out there. That bugs me. It really does.
Yeah.
Don't let it be the Percy Jackson of the queer
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so horrifying. I still remember being in the theater and being like, my soul leaving my body.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, but did you watch the miniseries on Netflix?
No,
Because
I was too traumatized to even give it a chance.
I thought it was really good. I watched it with my girls, and we actually did like a mini podcast on it when we were first starting this one. I was like, I'm going to do so many podcasts. I wanted to like start a movie one with my girls, but that was definitely not going to happen. Those girls are crazy. But we started with Percy Jackson, which is so funny that you say that.
I didn't even realize that. I knew about this podcast. I didn't know that that's what you covered.
Yeah, we did the little mini series. It was so cute because I like love Greek mythology. So I was like, I gotta get my kids into it. They didn't care.
We had, oh my gosh, 4th and 5th grade was when this was really big for me.
Yeah.
And there was specifically this kid named Bagley, shout out to him. He had, and a couple other kids, a bookmark business that they had set up in the desks, and he would draw like whoever your Greek god was, their symbol on a bookmark, and it was just like a strip of paper, but then he would cover it in tape, so it was like laminated. And we were all trading bookmarks, and it was like this crazy market underground business because the teachers kept trying to shut us down, and it was just like so underground because it was not allowed, and I was such a rule follower, but I would break the rules for a good Hermes bookmark.
Not above the bookmark.
Yeah, a little
underground.
Athena once in a while.
We had an underground bookmark market in my school too, but it was the glue, the glue sticks on the pencil boxes, the space mark ones, and you would color it. You'd color it with markers and then do the glue, and it would do the whole thing. That's
so
hilarious.
This is like an age-old thing. It never
dies. 4th grade.
Oh my gosh, is this like a 4th grade rite of passage? Did you do this in 4th grade, Michaela?
I don't remember doing this in 4th grade.
No!
I grew up in Rhode Island, though. I don't even know if it's a real place. So.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's a fake statement.
Okay, I have one last question, unless Haley, you have any more.
Nope, go ahead.
When do you foresee the Ballad of Connie Rose potentially hitting our screens? I know it's a little bit out there, but what's your ideal here?
Well, in a perfect world, next year everything would be done, and it'd be packaged and ready to go. The short will be fully done through post, barring any disaster, but I've already planned for them. So assuming that we go through every disaster possible, by next January, the short will be released and available publicly. It likely will not be going to film festivals just because we have such a specific goal with it. If it does go to festivals, then it'll be a little bit longer, but most likely by January, we'll have that available for people to view. And it'll be everywhere on my social media. So if anybody follows me, you'll see it, you'll know.
Oh yeah.
The feature film, in a perfect world, we would move into production on that next fall, 2026. Being a little more realistic, I would say anywhere from fall of 2026 to spring 27 is when we'll probably be in production on the feature. If anybody donates me $3 million or more, in the meantime, I'll let you know. But yeah, I would say probably in 2027 is when the feature will be available for
Okay.
wide stream viewing. That definitely has better potential for some serious film festival damage, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I'll say the short January, that'll be on everybody's screen. You'll be able to check it out. The feature will take a little bit longer, especially with these goals that we have. Like Catherine, if you're listening, like let's go.
Yeah,
girl.
right.
But,
Catherine, if you're listening, that's incredible.
yeah, but yeah, so that's the goal. I'll keep everybody updated as we move through. This is not one of those films where it's like, oh, it didn't work out. Like this film will be made. Connie will be told with justice, and as soon as she's ready to go and ready to show herself to the world, everybody will know about it.
Oh, we
Wow.
cannot wait.
Oh, I just met you and I'm so proud of you. Good job.
Thank you.
Good
Thank you so much.
No, this is super exciting. We cannot wait. Please keep us updated, like every step, anything we can do, shout outs, tags, anything, like we will do it for sure.
Well, I am so grateful. It was so great talking to you guys. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you
yeah.
so much.
For sure. And I will definitely I've been talking about y'all's podcast for a while now anyway, so I'll be getting people out there and tuning in because you guys talk about a lot of really fun and important things. So I think the more ears that you're getting into, the better.
Thank you,
Thank you
Michaela.
so much. This
That
is our
means so much.
our little baby over here. We love coming on every week, and sometimes we're silly, sometimes we're serious, but yeah, we love covering all forms of media on here, and we have a great time doing it.
Well, good. You guys do a great job, so keep doing
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you so much, Michaela. We cannot wait till the Ballad of Connie Rose comes out, and we can cover it on here as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
This was Michaela Wiggins. Go follow her. Bye.
Bye.